A woman wanted to prank her husband. So she left a note for the husband to read after he comes home from work. The note said that she's leaving and she doesn't want to come back, and then she hid under the bed to see his reaction once he reads it. The husband soon comes in and reads the note. He then took a pen out of his pocket and wrote a reply on the note paper, then changed his clothes while singing as if nothing has happened. He opened his phone and started saying, "Hey, honey. Yeah, I'm coming today. Thank God my wife left me and went to her parents' house. I hope she never comes back. I never enjoyed living with her anyways. I wish I met you before I met her. My life would have been better that way." Soon as he was done with the phone call, he left the house. The wife was shocked and became furious under the bed. She came out crying and started packing her stuff because of what her traitor husband said. Crying and full of tears, she noticed the note paper and read what her husband wrote. "Your feet are visible behind the bed. I went to buy groceries. You'll have enough time to wipe your tears when I come back."
It was a day like any other at the office for Dave, when all of a sudden, a bear opens his door. "We're out of coffee," says the bear, and it left. Dave was obviously surprised that a literal bear opened his door. He almost thought he may have been smoking something, but he brushed it off immediately. Maybe someone is pulling a prank, I don't know. But later when he goes to the break room, he learns that they are definitely out of coffee. The next day, Dave is at his workplace again, and wouldn't you know, the same bear opens the door. "The AC is going out," says the bear, and it left. And of course, the AC went out. It was hot at his desk, and he tried to keep cool, but he got through the rest of the day. "This is just awful," says Dave. And then on the third day, the bear opened his door again. "You're being laid off." And the bear promptly left. "What?" he said. And just like that, he went to the manager's office to ask him directly. "Is it true? Am I really being laid off?" "Oh," says the manager, "I was planning to tell you this afternoon, but yes, it's true." "Who told you, may I ask?" "Who told me?" says Dave. "There has a bear visiting me every day at my office." "Who is he?" And the manager says, "Oh, he's new here. He is the bear of bad news." A man is strolling past the mental hospital and suddenly remembers an important meeting. Unfortunately, his watch has stopped, and he cannot tell if he is late or not. Then, he notices a patient similarly strolling about within the hospital fence. Calling out to the patient, the man says, "Pardon me, sir, but do you have the time?" The patient calls back, "One moment," and throws himself upon the ground, pulling out a short stick as he does. He pushes the stick into the ground, and pulling out a carpenter's level, assures himself that the stick is vertical. With a compass, the patient locates north and with a steel ruler, measures the precise length of the shadow cast by the stick. Withdrawing a slide rule from his pocket, the patient calculates rapidly, then swiftly packs up all his tools and turns back to the pedestrian, saying, "It is now precisely 3:29 p.m., provided today is August 16th, which I believe it is." The man can't help but be impressed by this demonstration, and sets his watch accordingly. Before he leaves, he says to the patient, "That was really quite remarkable, but tell me, what do you do on a cloudy day, or at night, when the stick casts no shadow?" The patient holds up his wrist and says, "I suppose I'd just look at my watch."
Old lady gets into a Mercedes Benz taxi cab. As she hops in, the driver asks her where she's going. She gives him an address, as she's just arrived to town to visit family. They keep going for a bit, when the old lady notices the very characteristic Mercedes Benz ornament emblem mounted on the hood. "So what is that thing for?" she asks the driver. The driver sees this as a chance to prank the old woman for some laughs. "That's a sight that I had installed so I can aim my targets better," he answers. "What do you mean by targets?" she asks. "Well, you see that cyclist over there cycling along the road? Well, I hate those cyclists, so I'm going to run over him. As the woman gasps, he proceeds to accelerate and drive directly towards the unaware cyclist, but in the last moment he turns the wheel to dodge the cyclist. But there's a loud sound that surprises the driver. "What was that sound?" he asks. "Well, you can say whatever you want about that fancy sight of yours, but if I hadn't opened the car's door, we wouldn't have hit that cyclist."
A group of friends stays in a hotel in Soviet Russia. One of them ended up in a separate room and is trying to fall asleep. His friends, however, are loudly talking and telling each other political jokes in the next room. So he decides to prank them a bit. Calls downstairs, orders some coffee to their room and knocks on the door. Then goes, "Guys, are you crazy telling all these political jokes? KGB is listening." His friends are just laughing in response. "Okay," he goes, "let me show you." So he picks up an ashtray and speaks into it. "Major, can you please order some coffee to our room?" A minute later the coffee he ordered previously is delivered. Silence in the room. Now terrified friends immediately go to sleep. He goes to his room and, after a good laugh, happily falls asleep. The next morning he goes to their room to tell them it was all a joke, but nobody's there. He goes downstairs to make an inquiry and a lady replies. Unfortunately, KGB officers took them away at night. He's in shock, then regains his composure and suspiciously asks, "Wait a minute, if that's the case, why didn't they take me? Apparently the major loved your prank." An electrician gets tired of being looked down upon for his profession. So he uses the money he has saved up to become a doctor. As a resident, he always stood out amongst a crowd that was still mostly younger rich kids who could afford medical schools somehow right out of high school and undergrad. One day in particular, the hospital fire alarm got yanked super hard by a kid pulling a prank. Someone reset the alarm, but the handle wouldn't stay in the off position. So, thinking quickly, the former electrician takes some gauze and wraps it around the handle and then attaches the other end of the gauze to a magazine stand nearby to keep it in the off position. The attending on duty watches and says, "Wow, you're quick and efficient. We still need to get the handle replaced, but do you think this will get us by for the weekend?" The former electrician responded, "I'd say, while it's under control, it's still gauze for alarm." A young accountant spends a week at his new office with the retiring accountant he is replacing. Each and every morning as the more experienced accountant begins the day, he opens his desk drawer, takes out a worn envelope, removes a yellowing sheet of paper, reads it, nods his head, looks around the room with renewed vigor, returns the envelope to the drawer, and then begins his day's work. After he retires, the new accountant can hardly wait to read for himself the message contained in the envelope in the drawer, particularly since he feels so inadequate in replacing the far wiser and more highly esteemed accountant. Surely, he thinks to himself, it must contain the great secret to his success, a wondrous treasure of inspiration and motivation. His fingers tremble anxiously as he removes the mysterious envelope from the drawer and reads the following message. Debits in the column toward the file cabinet. Credits in the column toward the window. A doctor was chatting at a party with a chartered accountant. He asked, "How do I manage this delicate issue when people even at a party like this ask me about their joint pains and heartburn and gas trouble? Just because I am a doctor. Not fair." The CA friend replied coolly. "Just tell them the right things politely, but send them a bill from your clinic the next morning. Only once. Word will soon get around and it will stop immediately." "Wow. Thanks for the tip," said the doctor. The next morning the doctor got a bill from his CA friend. Consulting charges for business development. Some boys were walking to school in the morning, and on the way they passed a plum tree. There were plums all over the ground under the tree, so they ate their fill of them. But as a prank, they peed all over the remaining plums on the ground that they didn't eat. It was a long hot day in school, and when it finally let out, the boys passed the same plum tree. They were thirsty and hungry, and looked at the plums. One boy picked up a plum, examined it, and said, "This one was not peed on," and ate it. Another picked up another plum, and said, "The same with this one, clearly not peed on," and ate it. And so on. In the end, it turned out that none of the plums were peed on. A man with a hunchback, limp and massive bald spot is sitting in a bar, drinking his beer. When a knockout blonde sits next to him, smiles and says, "Hey, can I buy you a drink?" Man, dumbfounded, can only nod. He gets his drink and the woman keeps flirting. Guy, thinking this must be some sort of prank, isn't engaging when she suddenly asks if he wants to go to her place. What the hell, why not? He figures and off they go. They end up in the bedroom and she tells him to strip to his underwear and that she'll be right back. As he does so, he hears the door open behind him. Turning, he sees the woman with two small children. She points at him and says, "See? This is how you'll end up looking if you don't eat your vegetables." Two counterfeiters are making some fake bills. They've had a few drinks, so quality control is a little off. They accidentally make a whole stack of $15 bills. "What the hell are we gonna do now? We wasted all this time and resources making these," one of them says. "I know," says the other guy. "We'll go down to the gas station, where that real stupid kid works. We'll get him to swap out our funny money for the real thing." So they head on down to the gas station. One of the guys goes inside and slides up to the counter. He casually takes out one of the fake bills and grabs a pack of gum off the counter. "Hey kid, I want to buy myself some gum, but all I got's is this 15 on me. Can you swap it out for some smaller bills?" "Sure thing, mister," the kid behind the counter says. "Do you want 5 3s or a 7 and an 8?
A woman came home to find her retired husband waving a rolled-up newspaper around his head. "Wife, what are you doing, dear?" Husband, swatting flies. "I got 3 males and 2 females." Wife, how on earth do you know which gender they were? Husband, easy, 3 were on the beer, and the other 2 were on the phone. It was very hot, and this guy runs to a nearby store to buy a hand fan. There were 2 similar fans in make and model, but one was 25 cents and the other was 50 cents. The guy opted for the cheaper one, thinking that they work the same way. Before he left the store, the owner tried to impress on the buyer on how each works, but the buyer was not interested. A fan is a fan is a fan, and he knows how to work it. The 25-cent fan broke. He came back yelling and screaming that the fan was no good. The owner explained that he should have got the operating instructions. With the 50-cent fan, you move your wrist left and right to get the air flowing. With the 25-cent fan, which works differently, you hold the fan steady in your wrist and move your head left to right to get the air flowing.
A woman is cheating on her husband and her husband comes home early. In a panic, her lover hides in the closet. While hiding in the closet, he hears a voice. "Sure is dark in here." The man panics and turns and finds a little boy. "What are you doing in here?" "I like hiding. What were you doing with mommy?" "Nothing." "Doesn't look like it. I'm gonna tell daddy." "Is there anything I can do to keep you quiet, kid?" "I got a baseball glove. Do you want to buy it?" The man, with no real time to contemplate, nods. "Sure. 300. "That's outrageous," I refuse. "I'm gonna tell Dad," the boy said. The man quickly agrees and pays the boy. A few days later, the woman and her lover are in the home when the husband again returns home early. The man once again heads to the closet where he hears the same voice. "Sure is dark in here." The man turns and the same boy is staring at him. What were you doing with mommy? Nothing. Doesn't look like it. I'm gonna tell daddy you came here. Look, I can't get caught. Is there any way you can keep this quiet? I got a baseball. The man sighs. How much? 400. That's more than the glove. No way. I'll tell dad. The man quickly agrees to pay the boy. A few days later, the mom and dad are in the kitchen when the boy walks in. Hey son, do you want to go play catch? I can't, I sold my glove and ball. The dad is surprised. For how much? 700. That's ridiculous. The mom shouts. You tricked someone into paying way too much for a glove and ball. I'm taking you to confession. On that Sunday after service, the boy walks into the confession booth. Sure is dark in here. Oh no, don't you start that SAT again. Hey there. I put a lot of effort into making these videos, so please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy. Thank you.